You're listening to The Blind Chick, an Aftersight original podcast. We're telling you stories about strength, overcoming hurdles, and living experiences. We see who you really are. Blindness can be an adventure. Are you ready for the journey of a lifetime? We are. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to an episode of The Blind Chick. My name is Jonathan Bryce, your podcast producer here at Aftersight, producing everything from this show to Blind Level Tech, Blind Sight, The Blind Chick, Navigating Life with Vision Loss, and our newest show, Code Orange, which dropped just a little while ago. So you're going to want to go check that out. This is a new show with Marty Sobo. Also, we have our hike coming up. I know Penn will mention that at the end, September 13th. Come on out. You got time to register. It's going to be an awesome time. We're going to be up in Boulder. So get registered. I think we have close to 70 people registered for this hike. So it's going to be fantastic. But I'm going to turn it over to Penn and Moses because they're talking again with David Redmond, and he is from Vision Ireland. And there's some very unique things that are going on in Ireland. So I'm going to let them talk about all that cool stuff. And so Penn, there you go.
David, have you traveled much outside of Ireland? And if so, what was your experience with accessibility?
I've gone to the UK a few times. Now, I suppose my experience with the UK is it's somewhat similar to Ireland. I found that, there were certain things that were, different, like things like, traffic lights and stuff like that. Like most Irish traffic lights are quite accessible. And I didn't find that to be as easy in London. But on the other side, some would argue public transport is better in the UK. So it's definitely different depending on where you are, even in Ireland. But I found the most difficult part of that whole experience for me wasn't actually the places, but was actually the airports.
Oh, yes.
And it's, I would always, so one of the things I do is if I'm going abroad or something like that, I will always have some minutes available on Ira, for example, to use, or, a tool like that available, because I think it just means that I have a level of security that I know that if I do get stuck, whatever the case may be, I do have a backup option. And I think that's definitely something that I personally do. But I mean, the accessibility is hard to judge because I haven't been really far outside Ireland. I was talking to a gentleman earlier this week that was heading to Croatia because they have a hotel or a hostel that's 26 rooms. It's owned by the Croatian Blind Union, and it's fully accessible. There is a closed or kind of private beach that is fully tactile, fully accessible. Wow. All of the rooms, I have heard, allegedly have talking dartboards, which I never even knew was a thing. And I think that's the next holiday planned for me.
Same here. That sounds heavenly.
Yeah.
It sure does. Weird. It absolutely does.
Well, this is one that we have not, I don't think, covered ever on The Blind Chick, is you being young. I'm and me being very, very, very old. Like I knew Ben Franklin personally. I'm assuming you're single?
Do you know what? It's a really great question. So you assume correctly. So I am indeed single, and I've tried, and this is an area that I haven't gone into too much, even in our own content just yet. It's something I'd love to cover at some point, but I've tried things like the different dating apps and stuff like that. And it's tough. I do, because we often think about things like disclosing of a disability when it comes to CVs for a job or whatever, but all of the same things exist in the world of dating, like whether I disclose it on a Tinder profile. In my case, I do, but subsequently I don't get many matches. So then I was like, right, we'll try something slightly different. So then, only 2 months ago, for the first time, I tried speed dating.
Ooh.
And speed dating was, I've had two experiences of speed dating so far. So, the way speed dating, for those who don't know, works, and I'm sure it depends on the company that you're doing it with, is you are you sit with someone for kind of 5 to 10 minutes, and you have a conversation, and after that conversation you can decide whether you would like to match with that person or whether they're not for you. So I tried speed dating, and the first time I tried it, it was actually really accessible. So the company that I did it with, the way that it worked for them is if there were more. So I'm straight, just for context. So for me, if there was more males, then the males would stay seated and the girls would rotate. And if there were more girls, then the girls would stay seated and the guys would rotate. So in my case, I got lucky both times that there were more men than women. So I was able to stay seated, and because you don't want to appear like, it's like you said earlier, Penn. It's if you're in an unfamiliar environment, you almost appear more blind. And, you don't want the perception to be that, oh, he looks very blind, I'm going to have to care for him forever. It's like, no, you don't want that. So I got lucky that it was fellas stayed seated, which was great. And then you're basically given like a ballot paper kind of style thing. So you have each person's name and you tick yes and no. Now, I, given my level of vision, never effectively learned to write. So this was going to be a bit of a challenge. But one of the staff at the event was like really, really good on the first occasion and assisted me. So they would come over to me discreetly after and would ask me, would you like to see that person again or whatever? And then you get an email the following day. It was all voiceover accessible. It was really good. And you get an email with a link to a kind of an online platform with your matches. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have any matches from the experience, but it was a really interesting lesson to me that, showed that this is possible. So while I am still single and, experimenting with that whole world, and I do think that it is harder, the world of dating is harder for people who are blind or visually impaired. I think that, I certainly haven't lost all hope yet. I'm certainly, I'm certainly open to whatever, and we'll see what happens down the line.
Yeah, well, if you could spread the word, because for me, it's like once you go blind, no better are you ever going to find. And it's my experience of living with a blind person, it has been the best experience of my life, because you are not caring for the person, and it's like in any relationship, you build on the relationship. You do everything you can so your partner's going to be successful. And Penn does that for me. I do it for her.
Yeah.
And because of the situation and all the prejudice towards the blind, you tend to work harder at becoming more independent and becoming your own person. I cannot praise it enough. So good luck out there.
It's interesting because thank you so much. And I do think, I'm open to like whatever happens down the road. But it's funny because I had a really interesting experience a number of months ago where I was having a conversation with someone that I did match with on one of the dating apps. And I happened to tell them that I was visually impaired. And they said, oh, yeah, that's no issue. We all have our different challenges. And that was interesting. But it was so funny because in my head, I kind of had a weird feeling that I'd never had before. But I kind of felt like I almost wanted the vision impairment to be like, it's quite a big part of who I am.
Yeah.
And that's, so like, I wanted it almost to be more understood in a way. So I don't know whether, hopefully if I have a partner down the road, whether they will be fully sighted or whether they will be blind or visually impaired. I don't know, but it does, I think, somewhat change the dynamic a little bit of a relationship, and I am aware of that too. So it's something I've yet to explore, but who knows what the future brings.
Yeah, I know when I was like, especially when you're a teenager, in your 20s and things, when dating and that attraction is fairly new, I do think it's harder for people who are blind. So like even in high school, my girlfriends like had, we would be sitting, so and so just, he's so cute or whatever, and I couldn't, participate in that.
You don't have those experiences.
Right. So you miss out on that kind of excitement and the giddiness of it until you talk to them. And an interesting thing to me, though, it was almost a gift, because even to this day, I don't judge people off of physical attributes. And so I judge people once and now I do go a lot off of voices and tones. Yes.
So do I.
And so, I'm not going to give anything away, but I actually was someplace where I heard this conversation going on between these two people, and I instantly disliked one of them because of how they were speaking to the other person. And that was my initial, how they always talk about, that you get like 10 seconds to make a first impression and you can never undo that.
Yeah.
And so this person, I then unknowingly ended up having to work with them. And it was just a weird situation. and they turned out to be absolutely lovely. However, that first impression is still there, and I'm trying to work on it. But it's but also my girlfriends like went through all this heartache. It's like, oh my gosh, he wasn't who I thought he was, or blah blah blah. And I didn't ever go through that, because the friendships that I made, I still have those friendships. Rather they were platonic or romantic as a young person, I'm still friends with them to this day, because we truly were friends. It wasn't this visual, like, oh my gosh, you're so good looking. I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but
you're making perfect sense. I think absolutely, to your point about voices, I think a voice can be attractive, and I think that's more the case. Perhaps that perception, of an attractive voice. I don't know whether that's something that exists for the same extent for sighted people, but I think it's, like if someone sits next to me on a bus now, even with the level of vision I have, I won't be able to tell if they're male or female. Yeah. So, for me, it's one of these things where I don't have that same visual. I don't want to say visual judgment, because I don't think that's what it is, and that sounds really negative, but I don't think I have that same visual perception that other people have either. But absolutely, I think voices can be attractive, or indeed, as you said, sometimes unattractive.
Exactly. Well, David, I want to make sure that we touch on this. Again, we're sort of in the podcast time machine here, but Ireland has some really exciting news with
exciting.
Yes. So I want to make sure we get that covered.
As we record this, we might as well let the secret out of the bag. So tomorrow for us in Ireland, the European Accessibility Act, which is a new piece of legislation that requires lots of different types of companies to be accessible. That takes effect here in Ireland.
Yay.
So there's a lot of excitement. It's just after, as we record, it's gone 6 p.m. Irish time. So Vision Ireland is technically closed now for the weekend, but there's still excitement in the group chats, in the team's group chats, because people have worked on this for so long. People have been working on this for the past 3-4 years. So there's a lot of excitement about what this means for the future, for right now. We've seen companies for the first time, we'd be chasing companies to come and talk to us about accessibility. Yeah. And now for the first time, they're coming to us. And that's really, really exciting. So hopefully, it's not going to be like a light switch and everything is perfectly accessible. But for the first time, if we do come across, unlabeled buttons in an app, or, some issue that prevents us from checking out of a store online, then we have options to complain. And for the first time, the law is on our side, which is really, really powerful. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting. It's going to take time, I think, to bed in. But there is definitely a level of excitement in Ireland right now to know what this is going to mean and what this is going to be like. One of our biggest banks, Bank of Ireland, recently announced that they are replacing all of their ATMs to make them more accessible and efficient. So stuff like that does not happen without massive change like this. And I think it's really, really exciting.
It is so cool. I don't want to get too far into the dark political thing, but here in America, we have the Americans Disability with Act, and same thing. There was so many people that really fought for it for a long, long time, and it was so powerful. And it did not create change overnight, but at least we had the law to stand on, right? And now there's a lot of fear that we are going to lose that, and we have lost some things, and luckily there are amazing people that are fighting for the ADA to stay intact and not weaken. However, there are things that are being done rapidly that do weaken the ADA here in the United States, and that is removing, inclusiveness, diversity, equity, and even accessibility. So they're not saying that they're removing the ADA. However, they're removing the foundation of what the ADA stands on. So it's a really, to me, scary time right now for people with disabilities in the United States. And it wasn't perfect before, but I feel like we are really falling backwards. So it warms my heart that there are countries out there that are still, fighting,
care about
and building
1/5 of their population.
Yes, and so that's really exciting. Moses and I, we love to travel, and we love to travel internationally, and I love to see and experience what other countries do with accessibility, and not even that so much, but how they treat people with disabilities. And it's really fascinating to me, the difference. Recently, when we came back from Europe, I got so used to being treated equal that when we got home, I became so angry so quickly in the airport, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to figure out where to put this, what I need to do with this.
It's interesting. I mean, look, Ireland and much of Europe as well, I'm sure, has accessibility issues. That's absolutely the case.
Right.
But I think it's easy as well to think about, whether, like you said, diversity, equity, and inclusion is, being threatened in many parts of the world, not just the US, the US in particular right now, but many parts of the world as well. I think there is a few things that are important to note, because it can be a scary time, because the US is one of the biggest markets in the world. So what happens in the US, even outside of the US, it impacts us, because some of the biggest companies, whether it's an Apple or an Amazon or whatever, those are US companies. So what I would say is it's easy to be nervous and scared of those kind of pushes against diversity and inclusion, and they're definitely not good to see. But from the positive point of view, things are moving in the right direction in some quarters. So the European Accessibility Act, for example, doesn't just apply to Europe, but it applies to any company that is selling into the European market. So those kinds of companies, like, for example, your Amazons or your Apples, those companies, it doesn't matter whether they're European, American, Australian, where they're based, it does not matter. They have to ensure a minimum standard of accessibility.
Awesome.
And chances are that those accessibility improvements won't just impact Europe. They will also impact the US and Australia and Canada and all of these places around the world too. So the things are going to hopefully move in the right direction. I mean, this is always going to be an area of ups and downs. The fight will never, fully be won or lost. All we can do is keep fighting for the rights of people with disabilities. Do it, respectfully as best we can. I think is important in my personal view. And then from there, we will build something really, really good that, won't depend on, what politician is in or out of power, or what party is in and out or out of power across the world, because these are issues. It's a worldwide issue. Accessibility isn't just in Ireland or just in America. It's right around the world. And it is important to note that improvements in one places or things moving backwards in one place, it impacts everyone. But I think all in all, I do think that we're living in a really good time for people with disabilities right now.
Because it's a renaissance.
We've seen... it really is, with things like AI and stuff. I think we are slowly but surely moving in a really good direction. So it is definitely easy to be scared, because there is some very negative things going on in some quarters, unfortunately. But there's also a lot of positives, and I think it's good to stay aware of those.
Yes, and going along with that, even in policymakers, there's more and more people who are blind and low vision and with other disabilities, that are making, they do have a seat at the table now. And I think the younger generation, it truly is a world where you really can do anything. We interviewed somebody here on the podcast. It used to be like, well, blind people can do anything except for drive and fly an airplane. Well, actually, we're doing that now, right? With autonomous cars and
likes of Waymo.
Exactly.
States,
And even we met somebody who worked with a young woman here in the United States who totally blind and flew an airplane. So I really do think that it is wide open. So when a blind child does say, well, I want to grow up and be this, parents, you can say absolutely, because there are tools out there that make that world accessible. So I do believe that that's exciting. And I do think things like the podcast and, because podcasts and radio, right? So if you are stuck in your home, those are two things that are accessible. You can turn on your radio, you can talk to your smart speaker or your phone or whatever. Hopefully you have those the very basic, but I do think, podcasts like yours and what we're doing here at Aftersight I think we are going to be able to reach into those people in those homes.
I really hope so. I think what we do, and it can kind of be cringy sometimes to say, oh, they're just podcast producers. What did they do? But I do genuinely believe that, like in Europe, we have more of a culture of what we'd call public service broadcasting than exists in the States. You guys have the likes of NPR and PBS, but it's more cultural over here. Mm-hmm. So, I do believe that like this, getting the word out there and getting this information out there, I think it's incredibly valuable. And, it will only lead to good things. But it's like all of these things, it takes time. People need to stumble across this stuff. And people need to learn that, hey, blindness and vision impairment, it is okay. And yes, it's scary. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it's scary sometimes. And it is frustrating as hell sometimes. But it is possible to, have a really good, happy life with sight loss. It absolutely is.
Absolutely. Well, David, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. And I know this is just the beginning of a great friendship with you. I really feel that.
Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure. Yeah. So thank you so much.
So David, tell everybody how they can learn more about Vision Ireland and how maybe they can get in touch with you.
Oh, this is my favorite part. Thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. So I suppose the easiest way is if you want to listen to our technology podcast. If you like, whether it's Blind Level Tech or the Blind Chick, you'll probably love talking technology too. So you can subscribe to that. Just search Talking Technology with VI Labs. That's VI for Vision Ireland Labs. On whether it's on YouTube or on your podcast app of choice. We'd love to hear from you. Or if you want to sign up for our newsletter, you can find all of that on the Vision Ireland website. It's vi.ie. So vi.ie. And we would absolutely love to hear from you. So listen, thank you so much, guys, for having me. It really has been a pleasure. Keep up what you guys are doing at Aftersight. We'll try keep it up here at Vision Ireland, and we'll see where we go from there.
Thank you again, David.
It has been a major treat. Thank you for being on.
As David said, let's find those skills, whatever is keeping you inside. Let's connect you with resources and services so you can be out there. And again, the hike is coming up here in Colorado. On September 13th. Check it out at aftersight.org/hike. And then also you can check out all of our podcasts under Aftersight there at our website at aftersight.org. And if you have a question, or if you know somebody who, might want to come on, no matter where you are in the world, just like David coming to us from across the pond, you can reach out either by email at feedback@aftersight.org or give us a call at 720-712-8856. And remember to try to find a way to be kind to yourself this week, no matter where you are, and find a way to be kind to somebody else. It's good for your soul.